Cool. So yeah, we
This is a nice setup. It really is.
it is perfect for us. I love it.
Yeah.
So anyways,
All right.
I think this is episode 31.
31.
Jeremy Neer, my friend, my supervisor. We've been talking about this for probably since we had our first good conversation, which was probably in the first 2-3 times we met.
Yeah, I would say so.
I probably had said, we got to do a podcast together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now we work together, not on a daily basis, but every week we at least have a 1-hour conversation where you always say, Nathan, how is Nathan?
Yes.
Which I think you always know because I'm pretty open about that.
That 1 hour conversation typically consists of about 5 minutes of work and about 55 minutes of life and religion and politics and philosophy. And
Sorry, boss.
yeah. But we do get good work done.
Yeah.
We're just that efficient.
We are that
That's right.
efficient. And we tend to just take care of things in the moment if they need to be.
Yeah.
And if they don't need to be, we'll get to them eventually. But yeah, we always tend to get on a subject and regret not recording it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Here we are.
And now we're going to have mental block about what subject we should
No.
talk about.
Because what's funny is I'll start with this. I was having a somber moment just a little bit ago. I went to Toots. Mm-hmm. I was grabbing me something to eat, and that's kind of just the place I like to go because it's cheap and, whatever. By the way, I'm going to do 2 things.
Okay.
I'm going to do my best to watch my profanity because you have little ones, and I would love to give them the opportunity to watch it if they wanted to.
I appreciate that.
So if something does slip, I'm going to roll right through it, and then I'll just edit it out later. So if you see a difference, it's out of respect.
No,
So-
man, that's deep respect. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then number 2, I was at Toots, and I was thinking, I don't know where this podcast will go because we have unlimited time if we want to. Because
Right.
usually we're like, okay, let's just stop because we're going to end up getting in trouble, wasting
Right.
company resources and time.
Right.
So we just say, okay, because it always goes to a place, and I was thinking, golly, it can get pretty somber pretty easily.
Sometimes.
Well, not even between me and you. I was just thinking about tonight.
Oh,
Like I kind of let my mind wander
sure.
with the past few days and the things that are going on in my experience today and yesterday. And I thought, I kind of want to talk about those things. And I never talk about world problems. Mm-hmm. I talk about individual solutions and how individuals can improve their lives. And it's all about personal responsibility. But I thought, we got to start talking about a little bit about the world.
I think that's right. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, everybody says you're not supposed to talk about politics and religion, right? Mm-hmm. 2 of the most important things in anybody's life, right? Other than your family and those loved ones around you.
Probably
those
the
are
worst people to talk to.
Yeah. But things at work, you're not supposed to go into those
Yeah.
conversations. I think it's to minimize any arguments or disagreements, but that's where the best thought comes from, is people understanding each other, possibly disagreeing about topics. Now, you and I don't disagree on a lot of topics.
Well, even if we did. Well, yeah, we do, probably. But I think that's a caveat is that applies to unreasonable people.
Right. Yeah. Disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Have respect for other people's opinions. And I think it's important on another level as well to talk about those things, because the news is just at us constantly. It feels less like a .22 pistol and more like a machine gun right now, right? Where we're getting nonstop bombardment of different topics all around us. I think that anybody in general today, that could build up a lot of anxiety. Number 1, you need to talk about that with folks just to get it off your chest so it's not building up inside. And number 2, a lot of times you might be thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't make sense, but am I crazy? Am I the only one? And talking to people, you realize, no, there's a lot more people out there like you that may feel the same way, or at least be interested in that topic and want to talk more because they have stuff to get off their chest. So I think it's a matter of being open, right? Having the confidence to be open and just speak your mind in a respectful way.
So you just nailed it right there. So that's actually where I was going to jump from.
Okay.
I think I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I thought, well, you have a responsibility to continue doing the podcast. Mm-hmm. Not because I think I'm going to get famous, not because I think I'm going to reach a lot of people, but because I reach a handful of people that could benefit just like I could benefit from them. So, ideas and just sharing things with the 50 people or 100 people or 500 people that wind up watching this. And if it influences them in a positive way, and I think that's the thing, I've realized that's the way we communicate, is not like the standard, which is the news cycle, which is so disrespectful and so condescending, and it's just I've got one over you and everybody. It's a constant lie.
Yeah,
a constant lie. Yeah. Maybe not in a way that it's a lie is to. It's hard to describe, but it's a lie in the way that people are willing to defend something just to be right, and in my mind, that is a lie. And I think I think we have a responsibility to say to my kids, to my nephews and grandkids, if they ended up watching this, like, look, there's a whole nother way to communicate out of respect, without and about communicating about things that we don't agree with. Like, I mean, I've had all kinds of people on here that I didn't agree with, and it never turned out bad. It never got heated. And I think that's what's important to share is how do you communicate?
Yeah, I think the downside to the news media is it's become a cage match.
It's a joke. It's wrestling. It's WWF is how I describe it.
Absolutely is. To the point that it's
that's
also
politics
scripted.
as well. Yeah, that's our politics.
Right.
And, okay, so I think you just nailed it. So our politicians are WWF characters, and our news media is the announcers ringside.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it's fake. Everyone knows it's fake.
Right.
And for some reason, people that know it's fake, that have for years said, if you listen to media, you know they're lying, but then they defend. I don't trust the right or the left when it comes to mainstream media. I refuse to watch it or listen to it.
I think there's a reason for that. The reason is politics has become a sport and not a battleground of ideas.
Yes.
So if you go out on the street today, you're going to find University of Tennessee fans, and you're going to find Alabama fans, right?
Yep.
They might have the worst players on the field. They may have people that have done some horrible things in their past. Right, wrong, indifferent, they're going to support their team. And politics has become that as well. Regardless of what Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden or any of the wacky bunch out there are doing, if you label yourself as part of that team, now it's become a team fan sport, right? So of course you're gonna go and try to attack the other team as best as you can and put them down just because, well, I'm wearing that jersey. And I think if people start to realize that, I think that's how we're getting played in this country as a citizenry, is that people have to wake up and realize that those four folks and others out in D.C. and elsewhere, they're still having dinner together. They're still making backroom deals. And what's presented to us on the screen is not their ideas. They're pitching what they know is part of the script that's going to move it along, right? I liken it to this. So I'm a constitutionalist, right? Against any form of totalitarianism, communism, Marxism. And I tell people that the Democrat politicians lie to the Democrat voters, right? They lie to them by saying that the Marxist communist policies will work. They know that they won't work, but they lie to them to get them on board because they want more control. The Republican politicians lie to the Republican voters in saying that they are a legitimate opposition to that. They're not. It's what they want also, but they lie to the Republican voters to get the votes, all the while knowing that they also want the same control. So, and those politicians are working in tandem against the American people. And I fully believe that. There are some, I say that with a broad brush. I'm sure that there are politicians out there that really are trying to do what's best.
Boy, they should be speaking up and saying it's all a fraud.
Yes.
If you're not screaming that it's all a fraud, it's all fake.
And there are some that do, but they're minimized.
Yeah.
They're not the ones you're going to see in the media.
True.
Right? So
that is true. Yeah. Hush, just go away.
Which we see now with Facebook, Twitter, all of these other major social media platforms, the media censoring oppositional thought, right? Mm-hmm. So, and somehow that became okay. We got lied to, and now it's confirmed. We've been lied to about a lot of things for COVID for the last 2 years. And we just kind of took it. unfortunately, as a citizenry. And I'm not saying we need to go out with pitchforks and weapons or anything like that, but we just kind of take it and say, okay, well, I'll just, I'll fight you to support my team. All the while, the true fight ought to be you and I ought to get together and realize these idiots over in D.C., they don't have either one of our best interests in mind.
And that's what terrifies them.
Right. That is.
So you're talking about what's happening, and I can see that. And I tend to think about why that's happening.
Yep.
And it goes back to me, it's tribalism to me.
Yeah.
It's war. It's what we, our species, in my mind, we've been designed to do, which is overcome and conquer difficult situations. This is when we're at our best, is when there's a real enemy that we all see and we all come together because the same, hold on one second, Journey, no, sorry. Journey, come here. He's got dogs on him. You gotta go out there.
We love dogs. When my girls watch this, they'll love that. You ought to leave that in the show.
They'll probably never make it. They're not tall enough. So I think about this. I think it's tribalism. Now, that's a whole... I can't just say tribalism's bad because I'm not so certain. But I see it as when there's not a real enemy, we fabricate one. Because we need something... Because it's the reason why we make movies the way we do. Conflict, climax, resolution. If you don't have that in a movie, we're generally bored. And if we don't have that in our lives, we're generally bored. Which is why I truly believe sports are so important, because we can fabricate an enemy, right? Within our school. So we could all go to the same school, a county school. I'm on a football team. Within that football team, the positions are against each other. But then when it's the football team against the next county, well, now we're all right, we're all on the same tribe now, but we create these micro tribes within a huge tribe. And so that keeps going, and we get to the state level. Now we're all on the same team. Then we go to the country. Now the whole country's beside. It's fascinating to me as how we are as a species. So for me, it's like, okay, the reason why we're fabricating these WWF scenarios, and you could say Pelosi and McConnell or whoever these, I'm not all tied in, but they're like, okay, tonight you're going to lose. Right? It's my turn. I'm going to get you in the first ring. And you know what I mean? And every now and then I will say, I think there's a real person that's really wanting to fight for what they're just tired of this. Right. And they volunteer. But like you said, they're minimized. But I think that's why. I think they want to stay in control. They love the power. They love the sense of power. It's an extremely insecure individuals that I see in those positions of power because they seek power and control over other human beings. Anyone that has a desire to want to be in charge of another human being that wasn't chosen freaks me out. And that goes from supervisor all the way to the president of the United States. If you think you know what's best for another human being, I tend to run from you. Now, if we all as a collective group say, you know what? I know you don't want this responsibility, and it is. Leadership is a massive responsibility. But we feel you're best for us right now. And I say, so I think about that and I say, okay, well, it's all going to come to an end. We're definitely in the fourth turning. Things have, and I was sitting there at the bar, sitting there thinking, having this moment, and the girl walks by and says, you okay? You having a good day? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I had a great day, but I was just deep in thought. And I was having this moment, like I was appreciating this moment because I know it's not going to last much longer. When I went today to fill up my gas jugs, and it was $106, right, just to protect myself. And yesterday, my son and I wanted to go. We were going to the movies as a family. And my son and I were like, "Well, let's go to Let's go to Wendy's on the way there." We're sitting in the Wendy's drive-through, and this person comes out of a parking spot and tries to wedge in between a car in front of him. And I thought, that's kind of rude. And then the van pulls forward, the car just lunges, and they come within inches. And I was like, Landon, this makes me uncomfortable, buddy. Watch this scenario, because this is not a scenario I'm going to stay much longer. This is where people get out of their cars and start shooting each other. Especially when times are so good. When times are so great and we don't have a real enemy, we tend to fight each other. And I watched for one more minute. I said, much more of this and we're going to leave. And sure enough, they both inch forward, and the woman gets out of her car, and I was like, yep, let's just back up. We're going to go to another Wendy's. And I thought, buddy, this is how you behave with insane people. Just avoid them.
Agreed.
Wave and go on. Don't get involved in that nonsense. But this is what happens before a big collapse. People start eating each other. And so I just see it and I think, well, I'm just going to appreciate what little bit of time we have left before it does collapse, because something beautiful will come from it. It's like a forest fire. It'll grow back beautifully.
Yeah, I think people, well, you said a lot there, and I want to try to attack each one, because I agree with your analogy of the sports and needing an adversary, right? That's a healthy adversary. The stakes are small, right? The winner gets a trophy, right?
100%.
The stakes are huge.
Sport.
Right.
It's awesome. You do it within your family with Monopoly or Rummy. It's the same concept.
Right. Now, the stakes are huge when it comes to politics, because it affects our freedom, it affects our economy, our way of life, our sovereignty. But I do believe, similar to, you've heard the term cakes and circuses, right, from the Roman Empire. In the collapse of Rome, they brought out the Colosseums, and they feed people bread and stuff, and it's all because they wanted to appease the masses, just keep them entertained and keep them fed, and they won't fight us in the government, right? Yep. And that's what we see now, right? It's no coincidence that they closed the churches, but they left Home Depot and the liquor store open during COVID, right? Is to try to appease as much of the rabble rousers as they could. And, I think it's important for people to talk like we're doing here, because that episode that you described at Wendy's, it might just be a bunch of putzes that they're selfish and or in a rush. But more often than not, I think people act that way when they're full of anxiety, when they are at the end of their rope, and they're just feeling the stress of the day, and everybody's feeling like that now. And I think a large part of that is we're beginning to realize as a people that we're not seeing truth anywhere. We're being lied to on a constant basis, and there's really no truth involved in any of the media that we're getting back. You can't really believe what you see on social media, from the TV. People should know that already, but it's easy to sit back in comfort and just think that you're being told what's really happening. But more and more now we're realizing that's not the case. So I think that's building people's anxiety. And I'm sorry.
No. I want to go. If you have something to add to it.
No, go for it.
So I was talking about the tribalism maybe not being such a bad thing, because I imagine when I think of a good tribe is a small communities, like we're independent groups, trade, barter. Just I think when times are simple, I think we do well with real life struggle.
Right. I think that, and that's where I wanted to go next. So tribalism is good in that sense, where people are working and living and communing together in their local area, right? I think tribalism is a danger.
Ideology.
It's a dangerous ideology when you have those two tribes now.
Yes.
Now you have, and then bring somebody in that pits those two tribes against each other, right? Yep. And we see that today with race, with religion, with all, we're being separated. And who are we being separated by? These people that are saying, there needs to be an issue between you and I for a particular reason, or between me and somebody else. And a lot of times there's not. And even if there is, a lot of times those things can be worked out amongst just those individuals. But that tribalism, I think, is something that's preyed upon. I mean, it's sort of the basis of 1984, the book, where they're in constant war. And the reason they're in constant war in the book is that allows the oligarchs to maintain control over the people. Okay, now we're at war with Oceania. Now we're at war with one of the other ones. And so they're always hyped up and, okay, we got to go fight these people for our cause, without ever really realizing what our cause is. So I think tribalism, like anything, I think anything can be seen in both good or bad light, and I think in excess, it's always bad.
I think of the rat utopia that was in a science project in the 60s by Dr. John, and I cannot remember his last name for anything. but it's an experiment. I don't remember how big this cage was that he built, and I can't remember exactly how many mice or rats he started with, but he gave this handful of mice everything they needed to survive, and he tried to generate a utopia, which I love the word utopia because it's an idea that doesn't exist. It literally means nowhere.
Right.
It comes from the Greek phrase nowhere, and people are always talking about utopias. And I know living creatures of all types, maybe even down to an amoeba, does well when it has real life struggle. You know, it needs something to overcome. It's just like how we've been genetically wired to expand and conquer, and that's why Lewis and Clark
Yep.
went across. You know what I mean? To like it's adventure, it's the unknown, and we're just so good at that. And so, when you take away hardship, and you don't give us anything to work for, and you give us some let's say, what would it be called? A basic income. What would they call it? A basic minimum income.
Yeah.
Right. You give that, and you're going to destroy an entire population of people, because the same thing that happened in this rat utopia, they gave them all the medicine, food, water they needed, and just left them alone and let them breed. And boy, the population exploded. And I want to say it was something around 6 months. And don't quote me on this. And I need to get the details. Maybe I'll put it in the description. But I'm doing the best I can. But overall, it was this rat population exploded, and I want to say they got around 600 was their peak. They didn't have to try for anything, but about their peak was a drastic decline. Because they didn't have to work for anything, it created so much confusion, and they isolated. They would move into these, I would say like 80% of the colony was empty. And you had these ones that he referred to as the beautiful ones that became celibate, and they groomed themselves. These mice that they didn't get in a battle. They just set off to the side, and they just constantly groomed themselves. The mothers, I think, were going towards cannibalism. They were eating each other's tails off. They had food, all the food they ever needed, and yet they were attacking each other, and the population completely died in no time.
Wow.
And it was fascinating. It was fascinating. And I think that human beings are not so different. I think we need real life conflict, and I'm not. And if we don't have it, if we don't have real life struggle, everyone. And I was saying, there's no more poor people.
Right.
There's really no more poor people here. Everyone has access to everything. I've never seen anyone without a cell phone.
But the real struggle is the marketplace, right? The real struggle is you going out and making an honest day's living, right? We struggle at work every day, and
well, I create goals. I create hurdles and struggles.
Sure.
So I'm smart enough to keep me healthy mentally.
Right. But on a level of needs, right? You need to support your family. You need to put food on the table. And so it's almost a self-regulating event where you either want to work and go out and support your family, or you're not going to eat. Either way, it's a struggle, right? So if you're not making by with putting food on the table, paying the bills, that's a struggle, and that's going to energize you to go out into the workforce. If you some of us
just go and bum money on the corner.
Well, and
that's that easy. That's how amazing we are in our society.
Agreed.
I just give up and go down there, and somebody will take care of me. That's insane.
That is a part of it, and that could. Well, let's take all the bunny trails.
I have to fabricate my challenges.
Right.
Once I accomplish something, if I ever stopped generating a more difficult challenge for myself, I would fall deeply into depression, and I could probably become suicidal. I would imagine I could turn to drugs, alcohol, porn, gambling. I could turn to something to stimulate that dopamine, that serotonin, that adrenaline. And if I don't have a natural way of doing that, I'll find a synthetic way of doing it.
Well, people need a purpose, and I agree with that. People definitely need a purpose. And you could be great in your job, but your main purpose is not your job. Your main purpose is something else. But people do... they require a purpose in life to feel fulfilled inside.
Provides meaning.
Right, exactly. Meaning of life. It reminds me of our discussion right now. It reminds me of the Tytler cycle. I
don't know this.
By Alexander Tytler. And they don't know if he really came up with it or not. But it's a cycle. You've probably heard of it, where if a society starts in bondage, and they'll start in bondage, and they'll move to spiritual faith. And then from spiritual faith, move to an independence or a freedom, and from freedom they'll move, and it goes on in a cycle until they get to abundance, which leads to apathy, or no, abundance, which leads to complacency, which leads to apathy, which then leads to more bondage. And it's a cycle that people go through. And I think on that cycle, you see our society, we've been in abundance for so long, but we're definitely on our way through complacency into apathy.
We're in the crisis.
And I think you see the oligarchs now are jumping on that. They seize that they're seeing their opportunity to seize the day. Carpe diem.
I don't even try to explain why they do it because I can't identify with them. I have nothing in common with these people. Mm-hmm. And it's a sickness in my mind. It's someone that just can't be satisfied with producing effort in life, providing for those around them, focused on being the best version of them possible, and just trying to enjoy their Sundays or Wednesdays. They want total world domination and control, and the more they get, the better they feel, because they're chasing that high. I think we're all chasing the same high, but they find it in controlling others.
I think it's, me personally, I think it's deeper than that.
Maybe. It's probably way deeper. I don't know.
I think that we are currently, yes, that's where I was going. I currently see just the enemy of the age, the evil, just flaunting his stuff right now throughout the earth. It really is. It's true evil. And I think I mentioned this to you before. Me personally, if you think about evil and how it presents itself, how do you identify evil? These last couple of years, we've seen evil identify itself in duplicity of thought. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So we care so deeply about COVID that we're going to lock everybody inside because we care about the population. We don't want people spreading a virus, and we also believe we should leave the southern border wide open to let people in. Right? That's duplicity of thought. The idea of critical race theory, where it used to be now. So we believe that, and I believe this as well, as Reverend Martin Luther King said, judge me not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character, right? Content of character, not color of skin. Critical race theory pushes the idea that your content of character is defined by your color of your skin, right? That's duplicity of thought. And people hold the same view, but that's evil flaunting its stuff. The idea that that biological gender is changeable, right? So I have X and Y chromosomes. My wife has both X's, and yet our biological gender is changeable in society today. But as a Christian, if I try to convince somebody that their homosexual tendencies, out of love, I might want to convince them, hey, that might not be the best thing for you. That's unacceptable. So your impulses are unchangeable, but your biological gender is changeable, right?
Only to illogical people.
Yeah.
Only in a time when we don't have to go pump water from 80 feet underground. Right. We don't have to kill everything we want to eat.
Right.
It's only when times are so good, and it's the cycle. It's the fourth turning. We get things so good, so easy that we destroy it.
Right.
And we do it all over again.
So in that sense, the abundance that you're talking about allows these other conflicts to spring up. On the world stage, we're talking about the Great Reset, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard about.
Well, no, it's fascinating how many people haven't heard about it. And I think it's the only reason is because they've gotten a little bit smarter. Mm-hmm. Just talk about it openly. Yeah. Put it on YouTube. Don't try to hide it. Right. If you try to hide it in any way, it'll blow up everywhere. Yeah. So they're just like, just put it out there for everyone. Yeah. And I follow the World Economic Forum, and it fascinates me that there's like 500 of us that actually watch the videos. Mm-hmm. And out of the 500, 480 dislike the videos. And you can't see that anymore because YouTube took it off, but I found a way around it. I found an extension that still allows me to see likes and dislikes, and it's still fascinating to watch. But it's like, okay, we deserve what we get.
Yeah.
We as a species, we as a country, we as a whoever, we deserve everything we get because we are complacent. We're lazy. We just want to make our money. We just want to put our head in the sand. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. Sometimes that's what I want to do too. But I want to be just aware enough to where I can be prepared for when all this falls apart. I can be like, all right, we know what to do, kids.
Yeah.
Right? We're just going to lay low, let these people eat each other.
Yeah.
And we'll come back out when the flowers start to bloom after the forest fire is how I imagine it.
Without food or other necessities, society breaks down in 3 days.
Yes.
Right? That's typically
And no one understands that.
right. There
People say, well, I could just run. No. In 3 days, you won't be able to get a loaf of bread. You won't be able to get anything.
How quickly
2 days.
How quickly were you trying to go store to store to find toilet paper a year ago?
I didn't because I've always bought it in like a case. Not because I'm lazy, right? Only because I'm lazy. I benefit from being lazy. Yeah. So I'll buy it at a case at a time. And I thought, I don't want to go in that mess. So I was lucky. And the same thing with food. I begged my friends, people that I care about. I called my son today, my 24-year-old son, and said, I've been telling you for 2 years. Have you compiled enough? You don't need much. 1,000 calories a piece for 90 days. Yep. You'll be fine. Yeah. Just put yourself in a position that you don't have to go into the insanity.
Agreed.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying there's a very high probability. Say in the same way, I don't think my house is going to burn down, but there's a really good chance that it's possible. So I have homeowners insurance, and I have fire extinguishers everywhere. So that's the same line of logic.
Yeah.
And the unprepared people love to say, you're crazy. You know why? Because to even think about it terrifies them.
It's normalcy bias.
Well, they don't want to think about it because they would just crawl into a little dark hole. They would be the ones that just gave up. Yeah. You know, I would come into their house 3 months later and they committed suicide. And I'm like, well, thanks for the leftovers, people. And I get their Afghan. I grab some coats and some shoes. I'm going to be those Walking Dead guys. It's like, good luck.
Right.
You know, and I get it. I'm just not one of those people. I'm not one of those people that give up. I have a responsibility to extend the life of the species. Yeah.
But I also think, you and I, we're reaching out of love to our loved ones saying, are you prepared? And that's important. I think it's important for anybody. I've bought some prepper food bags for my folks. And so I know that they have those, and I've got 6 months of supply.
See, I don't.
Yeah.
I say, do you love me? Because I love you. Do you trust me? Yes. You need to listen to me. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying you need to prepare. It doesn't cost much. I've been saying it for 2 years. Yeah. If you're not willing to do that, you're not someone I'm willing to invest in, do not come to my house when you're unprepared. I'm talking to my mother, my sisters. And people tell me all the time, well, I'll just come to your house. And you'll be like the Hotel California song. Yeah. You can check out anytime you like, but you'll never leave because I'll probably end up eating you. Yeah. I say that joke. I thought it was going to get morbid. I'm going to put a horror. My yard's going to look like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Welcome. Yeah. Everyone's welcome. And I'm just going to make it look as somber and sickly as possible. And I hate to, I joke around about that, but I tell people, you're not coming to my house. Yeah. I'm not here to help you.
I agree.
Now, maybe if I can survive, right, and I can start to have a little bit of abundance, I'll trade, I'll help. And I know that went really dark really fast. I joke about it all the time because I want people to know that this is serious, man.
Yeah, it is serious. It's in a societal collapse, I've got to worry about myself, my wife, my kids, and my folks are 1,000 miles away. Yep. So,
well, people say, well, man, we got guns. We got Jeeps. We can band together. No. For the first 3 months, I don't want to see you. Right. Everyone that I know is a threat. Yeah. I do not care how related or close we've been. Yep. I do not trust you. Right. Period. Yeah. Because I have children. Yeah. And I know what I would be willing to do if I seen any one of them sick or hungry. Right. So I say, guys, look, buy enough so you don't have to put yourself in an irresponsible position to go out there and accidentally get murdered by some lunatic over a can of corn. Right. Your family's going to get, you know what I mean? Don't put yourself in a position.
That's real stuff. I mean,
hey, look, I think the movie that came out recently with I don't remember his name, but it was like a comet was coming to the Earth, and they chose a handful of people.
I heard about this movie.
It was Greenland. I watched that and I thought, you know what? That's exactly how it's going to look.
Yeah.
Society will break down overnight in panic. I see it happen on the time I see riots for no reason.
Right.
The social breakdown and
Right.
the chaos, and people love it. The anarchy, and I can kind of be drawn to that. The chaos of it feels. If I'm going to be transparent, it's like I'm drawn to that because there's this animal inside of me that would love to take part in flipping cars over and burning building down. But I'm also a reasonable human being, and I say that's irresponsible.
Right.
It's the same way I would play sports.
Right.
I want to destroy and dominate. But okay, we're civilized human beings. We're not cavemen anymore.
Well, some of us are, but you know, people that are in dire distress, their passions will get the best of them, as you described. You know, what would you not do for your children to make sure that they get some food? Absolutely. So, the way you put it is eloquent and it's correct, and that is be prepared enough to know that you don't have to be irresponsible to take care of your family, without a doubt.
I've read enough books now to know what human beings are capable of, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's happened within our lifetimes, within my parents' lifetimes, and if you read the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, it's the hardest thing I've ever gotten through. And people are like, come on, that didn't exist. Well, ask anyone that's grown up in Russia over the last 30 years,
right,
and they will tell you it is mandatory reading because that's what happened in the former Soviet Union.
Right.
And you will find out what human beings are capable of when they're desperate. And it is worse than any horror movie, right? Reality can be scarier and more gruesome. I will say, for instance, they turned to cannibalism, but not the dead. It was the living. Yeah. 1 week of being on this deserted island because they were already starving. They destroyed everything. They destroyed their entire infrastructure. So it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So knowing that and knowing what I'm capable of, I just say, we're going to lay low. We're going to lay low. And like I said, I knew this could get somber because you and I had never really been able to go much further. And there's not very many people you can have this conversation with that, most people don't want to have this conversation. And I would appreciate it if you just tuned out 30 minutes ago. It wouldn't bother me one bit. But I needed to document it. I want to see it back myself. And if I got hit on a motorcycle, if I was on my motorcycle, I got hit today, it would be nice that my children still have this information.
Well, and it's one of those things it's important to talk about. You talked about tribalism earlier. One of the most important things you can do right now is talk to your neighbors to understand where their mindset's at. Which side of that aisle are they on? Are they the ones that are like, I think it's appropriate to get some canned food, or none of them.
I don't even trust you.
Yeah, well, I understand that.
Out of respect.
Yeah.
Right, because I know what people are capable of now. I've thought about it long enough, and I know what I'm capable of. And I'm a civilized. You can't even get me in an argument. You can't even get me mad.
Right.
But you put my kids in a situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's a totally different thing. So I thought about my neighbors, and I feel very uncomfortable. I feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
I think it's not so much get to know your neighbors to see who you're going to bring into the fold during the breakdown, because I agree with you.
It's the rebuilding that I'm interested in working with people.
But it's also the forethought of knowing, okay, if things break down, I really got to keep a close eye on that guy over there. I'm going
to treat everybody the same.
Right.
That's why I'm going to put this funky sign upside. Welcome, free cookies.
Right.
And everybody will be like, I'm not going in that sicko's house.
Right.
I joke about that, but that's one time I would like the, just to kind of freak people out. Hansel and Gretel's house of candy or whatever. I joke about this stuff. I really, really am joking. I don't think it's going to get that bad. I just think it can.
But it can. Yeah. And there's so many instances in world history that it's... Another book is Night. And I apologize, I forget the name of the author, but he was a survivor of the Holocaust. And he described his time through that scenario. And what was gripping when you read that, or I listened to the book, was just how quickly everything divulged. It was In one instance, they were moving all the Jews into a ghetto, into one area, and then the next minute they were getting on a train, and then it's like, why is that? What's that burning and what's that smell? Literally in the book, and I know it could be written that way, but that's literally how it happened, that quick. So am I saying we're up against another Holocaust? No, but what I am saying, is that people are capable of those sort of atrocities. We've seen it over and over again in history, and it happens when people get desperate, and people are getting to the brink of desperation. So what is it that we can do to prepare ourselves for those desperate times?
Well, I think we're really fortunate to be in America.
Yeah.
The way America was built, the things that it went through, and the things people sacrificed to build what it is. People think, oh, we just came over and built America. No, it was fought for.
Yeah.
It was developed over a lot of blood.
Yeah.
And it was never intended to necessarily, I don't think, be this. It's just what it became.
Right.
Through defending. People said, oh, well, come on. And I'm not an American history expert, but I do know that we have this culture of defending what we believe in once we're pissed off.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty good that we're going to be okay. It may not be the America we've always known, which it's evolved multiple times, wouldn't you think?
It depends on how you describe America. Are you talking about America, the country, the legal structure, the societal structure, or the idea?
I think it's more the idea.
Okay.
And I think people will defend that.
Yeah.
In the end, I think people are willing to allow it to somewhat collapse, burn halfway to the ground, and they say, okay, well, we're done with that. And then start fighting.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I hope that people are willing to, because first of all, let's define that idea, right? There's an amazing book that I've read. It's called The 5,000 Year Leap. And it talks about, the same horses that were being rode for fighting wars 5,000 years ago were the same horses that were being ridden on during the American Revolution, Civil War. So what was this 5,000 year leap that humanity then took on, where we have all of this excess and we have the ability to feed so many people, and we have
I think I know.
It's freedom.
True.
But freedom that spawned the middle class. So if you think about world history, I can't think of another society that's ever had a middle class, let alone a middle class as substantial as the United States. And what that middle class represents, I'm not just talking about economics, I'm talking about the freedom to move, the freedom to make your way, right? You can start off poor, you can start off with nothing, but have a great idea or work your butt off, or even just have luck, and all of a sudden you're on your way through middle class, maybe even to upper class. And the rags to riches episodes, that was non-existent until the United States came to be.
Yep.
So, but what is required for that middle class? It's freedom. But it's not an anarchism, right? Because there are laws that are there to protect your rights and my rights. It's the reason why, you could say, well, I have a freedom to pursue any idea that I have in the in manufacturing. Well, there's intellectual property laws that are there to protect your rights. If you come up with that idea, then you ought to own those intellectual property rights for a time, because otherwise I'm taking your idea and running with it, right? And there are other obvious laws like the freedom to defend yourself. And where do we get these freedoms, though? That's the thing. So we get them from God, and I'm not just saying that as a Christian. I'm saying that based on our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence,
all
right?
Based on the Bible,
right? So,
or at least developed from
the
Bible.
So the way that the country was set up, and this really is the foundation of. I personally believe that our country was divinely inspired. I truly believe that, and we were set up, at least in idea, never perfect, because all people are imperfect, and we have people, running the show and in society. But the idea is God grants us our rights. We receive our rights from God. And we allow the government to perform certain functions on our behalf to protect us, right? People that haven't read the Constitution, I mean, usually you have a pocket Constitution. You could read it in 20 minutes, right? It would be eye-opening for a lot of folks that haven't read it to realize that everything in the Constitution, other than setting up the form of government and the structure, all of those rights in the Bill of Rights, that they're not granting us rights. They're telling the government what they're not allowed to do. The flow of hierarchy was government, or was God to the people, and then the people give the government the certain rights that the government holds to maintain order. And we've totally flipped that on its head. Now we've gone back to more of a European style structure where it's government at top telling the people what rights they have, to include sometimes what religion they can or cannot follow, right? It's totally backwards.
So I truly believe in The Fourth Turning, the book, The Fourth Turning.
Yeah, amazing book.
And I think I believe in it because it just logically makes sense, fundamentally, because it is based on memory. I think ultimately you could say it boils down to human memory, and our ability, generational memory. And the reason why we tend to continue to make the same mistakes is because we're really poorly developed in storytelling. Like, stories are so important. So you can say, well, when I was a kid, this is the way it was, but for some reason it only lasts 80 to 100 years, and we make the same mistake again.
Right.
And I feel like our government has done this a few times. Right, I look back at these movies and I see these testimonies from these movie stars that were convicted of being communists, right? And I say, well, okay, I can see our government was pretty intrusive at times, and it was power and control. And I think, well, we're just going through that again. And I think this is what I really get. I get happy when I think about this. When I think about how many times the world has reinvented itself since the beginning of recorded history, and people talk about how evil the world is now, and I say, wow, no, it's not even comparable to human history. Recorded history is just brutally evil.
It is.
And
it is.
And I look at what we're in now, and I say, okay, well, good. I think this is about as bad as it's going to get before we collapse and we blossom again. I just think we keep getting better at it.
I would disagree in this one stance, though. I don't think that we're evolving to some sort of moral high ground as a society, and I don't. And for two main reasons. One, on a theological level, right?
Yep.
So as a Christian, I believe that men are flawed.
The return,
right?
Also, the return, like, it's supposed to get really bad, like Sodom and Gomorrah bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're talking about Revelation, right?
I thought that's where you were going to go with it.
Well, not necessarily. The condition of the human heart, right? There is not a recorded instance, including America, in all of history that says that people left to themselves without, just left to their vices, will treat each other with dignity and respect. What
about the Indians?
So, but there's a lot of tribal conflict amongst the Indians, right?
I don't think you're ever going to mention one place on the planet in human history that there wasn't tribal conflict. But when I go back, and I was doing these zip lines in East Tennessee, and you're on these big platforms, and I was reading the Cherokee, I think it was, in East Tennessee, and there was a war chief and a peace chief, and I thought, that is genius. They were so much more advanced than us. They had to both agree before they could move forward. So, sorry, I just thought that was really advanced for their time.
No, I understand that. Take that back just a couple hundred years before that to the Aztecs, and I don't think the kids that they were sacrificing on those altars would think that they were very peaceful either, right? So I think but it's not because they were Indians, or we're the white settlement, or it's because of the human condition, right? We have fallen. And we have an addiction problem. It's a sin addiction, right? People have their vices. And, John Adams told us, he said that our Constitution is made for a moral and religious people. It is solely inadequate for any other. And it's because with freedom comes responsibility. And that responsibility tends to have to come from somewhere, because given to our vices, if we give you, going back to one of your prior statements, give you all the food that you want, make sure all your bills are paid, right?
100% against it.
Right. So we get lethargic, we get lazy, or the flip side of it, societal collapse. All of a sudden, something that you would never think of doing. Well, yeah, to protect my family, you sure I'm gonna go out and bash this guy's head in and take their can of soup or whatever, right? So that's what I mean. So John Adams' quote, it sticks with me because we have removed that religious aspect from the United States. We are a Christian nation, and I don't care anybody that says that we're not, because the Supreme Court said that we were in, I think it's 1811, 1810. I think it was there was a Supreme Court case where they said specifically, this is a Christian nation. That doesn't mean that others aren't welcome. It just means that Christianity forms the norm on which, and the basis on which we interact. And because of that basis, we have been able to be self-regulating. Those that will not regulate themselves will end up being regulated by others, right? So as we remove religion, we took the Bible out of schools, right? We're now I think it's beyond apathy towards religion. Now we're starting to see hostility towards religion in many respects, whether it's in the media or in pop culture, etc. So as that continues, the morals that are built within that religion that tend to keep people self-regulated, those are going away. So what do we see? Now we see all of this chaos and uprising and people acting out on their fleshly desires as opposed to what they believe is morally right, given what God would say. And because of that, what happens, and this is something that I hope people understand, government that wants to control people wants that. They want people to act out, because then the normal masses left behind, what do? They say, we need a savior. We need somebody to clamp down on society. And that's when the oligarchs are more than happy to say, oh, okay, yeah, we'll just implement these other laws, these other restrictions. Oh, we'll put those people in internment camps.
And I think the trucker convoy was proof that it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You don't have to do anything.
You're talking about the Canadian one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything for them to come up with these crazy rules.
Yeah.
And I hope that we don't switch gears too much, but I want to, since you brought it up, you said religion like 7, 8, 10 times.
Yeah.
Now. And religion is something that I struggle with.
Yeah.
Really, really struggle with, because I always, and maybe I was in a podcast a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about it, and I was talking about how much I despised the idea of religion.
Yeah.
And I thought of it, and I said, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I think of it as a man-made thing. A man-made interpretation of something that he felt he didn't agree with this, so I'll create this. And so many times through history, they were created for personal gain, and you see so many cults. And I don't want to call out any one particular. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
But so many of them were just a way to manipulate a population. It felt like, and religion has been used to kill so many people. You could say. Right through. Well, I'll say it. The Catholic Church was one of the most evil things.
Absolutely.
That they were hand in hand with governments, and so I struggle with religion.
That's the point. And you are
just
accurate.
the word religion. I despise. Am I correct? Is it okay for me to even say that?
Yeah, I think it's semantics, and I think you are correct in your semantics. If we define religion as the man-made order of the faith that we pursue, okay. So
their interpretation,
right?
They have the same book,
right?
And if you don't like that, they just go print a different one and change a few words. If they don't like that, they'll print another one that's a little nicer. Yeah. It's not as harsh,
right?
And this one smells good. It's like a sniff and scratch. It smells like bananas. You know what I mean? It's like we just we water everything down for people's feelings.
That is true, and that's happening more so today. It's actually ramping up. So you have to be careful. Well, as a Christian, I've got to be careful to know that where I'm getting my where spiritually fed is based on God's word and not on these man-made changes, or not based on something that a pastor or a church in particular is just trying to get as many people in the door as they possibly can. Because God is, for me, right? God is all judging and all merciful at the same time. And the only way to reconcile that is through Jesus, which we can get into a theological discussion on that. But so that means you need some of that fire and brimstone. Hey, straighten yourselves out. You also need the realization.
I like this. I'm glad we're going on this because I actually, coming from you, because I'm not a religious person.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily a person of faith.
Yeah.
Once I started understanding what faith was for me, I started looking at things differently. No disrespect towards the Bible.
Yeah.
I look at it from a more logical point of view and things that just kind of make sense.
Sure.
And I think I know how these words were written. But anyways,
Yeah.
I do want to go down that road, and I apologize for cutting you off.
No,
This
okay.
is the most, by the way, I want to say, I've not cut someone off.
Well,
Isn't that incredible?
That's
I've
just
been
because-
noticing, I'm not cutting him off. We do really good in conversation. We do enough talking that I do well with you. We have enough conversation.
We're self-regulating. We don't
We
have
are.
to be regulated.
The headphones really help.
I agree.
Yeah, help a lot.
They would help in karaoke as well. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that here. We want people to watch this.
I'm going to do my best. Can I borrow your pen and paper?
Yeah.
Because I want to write this down. Sorry, my pen and paper is full.
No, go for it.
And so I want you to continue your thought, and I'm going to see if I can remember mine,
Okay.
which was, I'm listening, but go ahead.
Yeah, so we need truth. That's what people are desperately in need of. And sometimes that truth hurts, right? So that's the fire and brimstone piece. The other piece of that truth is that, the difficult piece is that you're not good enough. You'll never be a good enough, right? But that's not condemnation. That's conviction of sin, but the realization to know that Jesus died on the cross to take the place of our sin, right? So it is not a message of license to be sinful, though, right? I think of it this way. If I believe, and I do, that Jesus died for my sins, okay? So I have faith in that. I believe in that.
Thank you for doing that, because you just got me back to where I want to go.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll just say faith a bunch of times. So I believe that. Well, what does that mean? That means that I know I can't fulfill everything that God wants me to do because I am flawed. I'm an individual. I'm imperfect, right? I can't live up to His standards. Even if my standards reach the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, right? God's standards are at the moon, right? I'm not getting there. So that sounds depressing, but
Not really.
the good news, that's what the word gospel means, right? The good news is that God came down, Emmanuel, right? God with us. That's what that word means. So God bore our sins, died on the cross, put our sins to death so that we can be made new. When He rose from the dead, we mimic that in our baptism, right? Death in the water, then coming back to life, a brand new creation where it doesn't mean that we're perfect. As a matter of fact, any church that thinks that they're perfect is that's a flawed theology, right? Church is not a hall of fame. It's a hospital for sinners, right? We're going there to be spiritually fed because we know of our flaws, our internal flaws, but we're so thankful, so grateful that we have a God that sent His only Son to die for us, right? So that's my interpretation of the theology. So then some people might say, well, okay, cool. So you just put your faith in Jesus and go out and do whatever you want. And the Bible doesn't say that either. And it's not because my works don't give you my salvation, my faith does. But what I would say is, if that's the way you think about Jesus as as sort of like a roulette wheel, or a vending machine might be better, right? A vending machine to cover my sins, then you might want to check to see whether or not your faith is real, right? Because it takes real faith in order to have that salvation, and that real faith drives people to say, yeah, I'm flawed, and man, I fail like every hour, maybe every minute, but I want to do better because I know this great gift that's been given to me. Does that make sense?
Yep. I love it, and I'm excited to talk to you about this because very few people of faith that I have met. So I grew up in a church. Mm-hmm. I grew up with faith. I grew up with the idea or was told that hell was possibly in the center of the earth and hellfire, your soul burns for an eternity if you don't accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. I grew up as a Baptist. So long story short, I don't believe in these things anymore. Because they didn't make sense to me. Yeah. I don't think I really believed then. And so the reason why I brought it up, because faith is a big part of this belief. Okay, so we were in a meeting today, and there was a couple individuals that were almost desperate to convince us of something. Yeah. I'm never. When I believe in myself, when I know something, I'll put it out there. Yeah. Because I know. Yeah. And if it doesn't seem like it's right for you, I appreciate that, I respect that, and I move on. Yeah. I would never, ever try to push my thoughts or beliefs or faith or whatever. The faith they had in their product, boy, they were adamant about us using it. Yeah. And it was so desperate, it was a turnoff. Yeah. That desperation, I've noticed in religion, goes as far as trying to fear me into an alternative, right? Yeah. This is great over here. Streets of gold, mansions, right? Or hail, fire, and brimstone, right? And then you just don't even know the screaming and for an eternity, right? And they try to freak me out. Yeah. And at a very young age, I thought, desperate. Yeah. I don't trust you, and I don't believe you. Yeah. And I pulled away from that. I run from desperate ideologies, things that try to fear me. Oh, if you don't do this, you're going to lose your job. Sure. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. No. Yeah. I know I'll be fine, is the way I look at it. So, but then they would say, well, the devil's got you. The devil's convinced you. I would say, shut up. No. You know what I mean? So faith. Yeah. Well, we're just talking about threat. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about every religion threatening us that if you don't believe this, if you don't have faith, you're probably going to burn in hell for an eternity? How does that make you feel? Do you even agree with it? Because you're a very logical person, and you're a person of faith. Yeah. Like you're a scientific mind and a mind of faith.
I want to go there. And I'll put that.
Can I pause for 1 second? Yeah. Okay, I'm back real quick, and I want to add to it. I noticed the ones that use that tactic the most are the most uneducated. Agreed. Are the most uninvolved, desperate. Yep. Right? And it just kills me. It's what gives religion or any faith or whatever it is. We'll just say religion. It's what gives it such a bad name. It's the dumbest people that are the most threatening, and it's just weak.
The extent that it goes is the Spanish Inquisition, right?
I don't know what that is.
So
Spanish, I think we're talking about.
It's the Catholic Church forcing people to convert, right? Okay. And so to pick that back up, I'm gonna use a couple analogies, right? If somebody's running in the road and a car is coming, you're going to be desperate to grasp them out from the road. So as a Christian, I do believe that there's life after death, and I do believe that there's a separation of those lives. There are those that have a faith in Jesus that are going to go to heaven, and I believe that those others are, in the Bible, they say that it's cast into an abyss, right?
And I actually can agree. That's not too far-fetched for me. I could see that pretty easily. So go ahead.
So if I have that belief, now I'm taking it at base value, because I also agree with what you said, that those that try to use that tactic with anybody, tend to be less knowledgeable. And I don't mean that in an arrogant sense, because I got so much to learn as well. So I'm not saying that I know everything, but what I'm saying is that tactic really does come from a sense of feelings and not necessarily
Well, I want to say that it's not necessarily. I found this when I say uneducated, it's just because you go to a classroom and you listen to a teacher does not make you educated.
Right.
You're listening to their interpretation.
Right.
If you choose to believe that, that's on you.
Yeah.
If the teacher's wrong, then well, guess what? It's your problem.
Right.
It's your fault because you didn't do your own research. You didn't do your own studying. And I see that as the major problem.
Yeah.
No one really does their own studying.
Agreed.
They just listen to someone. Yeah, they did the work for me. Yeah. Appreciate it. And I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be the person
Yeah.
that just listens to someone tell me what they think
Right.
or what they believe based on their faith.
Yeah.
And just accept that for my future. So that's what separates me, I guess.
Let me take you down a trip down my faith walk.
Okay.
So I grew up Catholic. Grew up in Northeast.
Shocked. I had no idea.
Yeah, I grew up in the Northeast, and it's highly Catholic population up there. And so I grew up, altar boy and all that stuff, and going to church every Sunday. And I think that upbringing helped me to start. So I did have a faith in God, but it also comes with a lot of legalism, right? You have to do this, or you're not saved, or you have your deadly sins, right? And you have to make sure you go back to the confessional every week to
repent.
Yeah, gotta repent.
What a ridiculous idea, almost.
Actually, I believe in repentance. I don't believe in constant confession, and there's a difference. So the repentance, to repent, is to say,
it's to seek forgiveness.
It's to seek forgiveness and to turn. Okay,
Yeah.
That's part of it as
That's
well.
good. That's
okay?
admitting I've made some mistakes.
And I want
publicly.
to do something different.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what we do every day.
Confession is like that slot machine or that vending machine, right? So
Gotcha.
okay, and that can go down to Middle Ages of I forget the name of it. There was a name of it where people would pay for their sins in the Catholic Church,
concept.
right? So
it's amazing what people do to sleep at night without cortisol
Right.
pumping through their veins. That's all they're trying to avoid.
Well, that's true.
The stress hormone.
That's
and
true.
anxiety.
And that's another bunny hole as well, because I do believe that. So God will convict you of something that you've done wrong. The devil will condemn you of something that you've done wrong. And here's what I mean by that. If you are walking with the Spirit and you feel as though you have God inside of you and you do something wrong, you're a flawed individual, you say something out of turn, you're going to get that feeling of like, man, I really should not have said that. I should probably go apologize, and probably try not to do that again, right? That's repentance, right? But you're being convicted of something that you think you've done wrong, that God's prompting you, right? Condemnation.
So you say that's God doing that.
Condemnation, yeah, that would be the Holy Spirit in you saying, hey, you know what? It's the tap on the one shoulder saying, hey, you know what? That wasn't right, but you can do better than that. Go tell him you're sorry. Try not to do that again, right? The devil is going to condemn you. The devil is going to be up in here saying, that's just like you. You are always like that. You're never going to change, right?
Just accept it.
That's condemnation. That keeps you down. That keeps you in shame and guilt, right? When we do things that are wrong, we get filled with guilt and with shame to the point, and this has happened to me in the past, to the point that you don't even know if you deserve forgiveness for those things, right? And that might happen for some and not for others, and I get that. But that condemnation of, yeah, that's just how I am. I don't think I ever could change. But God can unscramble an egg, right? I mean, so it's not the person being perfect. It's the person trying to walk with God each and every day, trying to just do better each and every day, having bad days, being flawed, asking forgiveness, just knowing that God's going to be there at the side of the road to lift you out, okay? Lift you up instead of the devil stomping on your head and say, stay down there, that's where you belong, right? That's conviction versus condemnation. But going back to your comments about bashing people over the head sort of with that fear of hell. on the one hand, it's the idea of, hey, I love this person. I don't want that future for them, right? So I've got to do everything that I can to convince them.
It's human nature. Our parents did it to us.
Right.
If you don't do this, you're going to wind up pregnant, divorced,
Right.
yada yada yada. It's a training tactic from a weak individual.
Yeah.
It's what desperate people do to try to get the best out of someone.
And it's also,
and I say desperate, not necessarily negatively. I don't have a better word for it. They don't possess the knowledge or the experience to communicate and or articulate a concept.
Yeah.
Confidently.
I agree. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but I'll get there.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So, the other thing is they're overstepping their bounds in this sense. So yes, we're there to share the gospel, the good news to everybody. Hey, there's a better way. You don't have to live in sin. There's somebody there that has saved you, and all it takes is faith in God, faith in Jesus, and repent, turn from your sinful nature, and you can be saved. And we're called to plant the seed, but it's God that's going to do the work, right? So in other words, if I really want to call Nathan, and I do, but full disclosure, right?
Oh,
no manipulation.
Trust me, no,
right?
I get it a lot from people, not just like you, but people that I admire, have respect for, that like, we have to talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? A lot of times they want me to make videos for their churches.
And right.
You know what you could do for God? I'm like, yeah, I do actually.
and do it very well. But it's, so I would want to plant a seed. Mm-hmm. And how would I do that? I might talk like we're talking right now. Hopefully this is planting a seed for after this conversation. Mm-hmm. You go, well, he made some good points. Hopefully I can make some good points here. Maybe not. My own testimony and the way that I am approaching life and approach others and approach you, right? Am I presenting God in the best light? Because I believe that God lives within us, right? The Spirit is within us. And so
it's the only reason I'm having this conversation with you. It's out of respect.
Yeah.
I knew this conversation could easily go down this way. I apologize for cutting you off, but I needed to jump in there and say it's the only reason. I know plenty of religious people that think they've got it figured out. And I struggle. I can love them, I can hug them, but I keep my distance.
Sure.
Could be my family members, it could be friends, cousins, doesn't matter. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. Is the only reason why I would even consider having these conversations with you.
And I respect you enough not to bash you over the head with it. And I respect God enough to know that in His time, He's going to work what He needs to do in you. There's 4 wills in life. And I don't mean the name, but there's God's will, there's my will, there's other people's will, and there's the devil's will. And all of them are working in tandem on the earth. Okay. So God's will is to have everybody come and be saved and be with Him, right? There's our will, which may or may not be the case. We have a ton of that. There's other people's will and how they influence us. And then there's the devil's will, who wants to keep us in damnation, right? And so all of those are working in concert at all times. Mm-hmm. And so, my role would be to try to represent, and I want to make sure I get this out. I am not perfect. I will not be the best example of this. I have the days where, now I've never kicked my dog, but I've had those days where you thought that I might, right? I've had those days that have left marks in places that shouldn't be because I've been so angry or flesh out or have done terrible things to people. I've had those days. So all of this to say I'm trying to represent the best.
You're trying to be the best version of you possible.
And I'm flawed each and every day.
And I think that's, so my sons, I have 3 sons. Mm-hmm. The conversations I've had with my sons about religion or God or whatever it is were very much like this.
Yeah.
Without influencing them heavily, not trying to say this is what I was told, this is what I was taught, but just like, I don't know, guys. I don't know, but I don't like the way that I was taught.
Yeah.
I appreciate the Bible. I appreciate what it's attempting to do. I know you don't have to be religious. You don't even have to be a Christian. You don't have to be anything. If you're just a logical person and you understand what the Bible represents, you can recognize very easily that it is how we function as a society around the world. Now, some people call it Buddhism, some people call it Hindu. They're all influenced through something higher, their God, and they may all be one and the same, and we just haven't agreed on that. I don't know. I'm not going to even debate that. So, when it comes to my sons, we're all freaking happy. We're all focused on being the best version of us possible to produce more than we consume. Anyways, these concepts, it's like I think without religion, I don't know. I feel like if you compared us to an average Christian family, you would probably think we were a Christian family. Like, oh, they're really living the life. They're really trying to give back. They're really trying to not take from people. Because I see so many people in religion and churches that are just awful. I've been grown up around them my whole life. They mean well sometimes, but for the most part, they're the most miserable human people. I mean, it's just people in general. A church is not going to make you happy. You have to do that from within, from your effort, from overcoming trial. Stop blaming. Stop blaming and accept responsibility. Quit blaming the devil. Right? That's such an easy one. And quit giving it all to God. Right? Everybody says, well, if it's in God's will, maybe, but I'm not going to sit around and wait out. I'm going to go do it myself because God gave me 2 feet, 2 legs, and a brain, and I'm going to go make it happen.
I agree with that point. I do. So when I hear or I've said, give it over to God, it is that internal struggle, right? It's not the external
You're talking
things.
about where it's out of Jeremy's hands.
Right.
I've been there.
Yes.
Wasn't too long ago. A couple years ago. Nathan went very beta-minded, which I think of alpha and beta as a state of mind. I don't think it is about being tough, although, yes, that could apply. I always joke around about Mike Tyson being an alpha in the ring and a beta in the bedroom. And that's where he's confident is in the ring. Yes, he can beat the crap out of me, but the reason why he can do that was because he was trying to seek the attention of a woman, right? So he just beat the crap out of people, but he never knew how to maintain a relationship with a woman. Now, I think that Mike Tyson has evolved, or I should say, he has transcended that way of life, and now he's probably more confident with himself and his abilities. So I think of alpha and beta in that way. And I said that to say, why did I say that? Alpha, beta. So my mind went from being confident in this world, relationship-wise, I know what I'm doing, I got it figured out, to, oh my goodness. I lost it. I lost it. I went totally beta. What do? I'll give it to anybody. God, you want to listen? I'm here to talk. I remember I hadn't prayed in 30 years and boy, I was praying. But it was just that, it just felt good to get it out. I remember coming over to you and saying, Dad, listen, I'm not a religious person, but if you will pray for me, I will appreciate it. Because I was that desperate.
And I did.
You did. I know. You did in that moment. I'm sure you did later on. And I'm not shy. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. That tells me I'm more alpha-brained, I believe.
Right.
I came back. I found my way through it because I got to a point of acceptance. That was what was important. And I realized all that was so important. I would not trade that experience for anything on this planet. Because what that was doing, it was a lesson. It was a lesson. Don't repeat those mistakes.
Right.
Or maybe I didn't make a mistake other than accepting circumstances for short-term gain. Like, okay, I'll get by. Short-term gain, long-term pain. And I live by these things. So I guess maybe I'm more in touch with the Bible because I think the Bible... Okay, I spent some time asking why. And I say to everybody, if you ask why enough times, you'll meet God. That's where it goes. Every single time. And it's taken me months sometimes to answer questions, and they all tend to go back to one place. And I said, oh, shoot, it's God. It was like these epiphanies that I had. And it may be different than what you would imagine, but that's when I was like, there's a God. There is a God. Now, it wasn't because some preacher told me that. It wasn't because I read the Bible. It was like this moment that I had this epiphany. It was like, we've all came knowledge, information, all comes from the same place, and it's passed down from through birth, right? Cellular memory, all these things that I think about through science, and all that brought me back to this God. But it was just funny to kind of find it my own way.
Yeah.
Sorry, I droned on forever.
But
I was saying that sometimes I feel more in tune with the concept of the Bible or what it's trying to teach.
Yeah, the precepts.
And I never read it.
Uh-huh.
It was like so many times I've discovered things that are taught in the Bible that I wasn't taught. It's just something I found within myself through trying to be the best version, questioning why these things are happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of ranting now because I don't fully understand it.
Yeah.
But it was a fascinating process.
Something that you have gone to in our discussions, and I think even on the podcast before, is first principles, right?
Yes, that's
going
where
down
I
to
go.
first principles.
That's first principles. I met God.
That's how I did too.
Okay.
So, and obviously I grew up through the Catholic Church, went off to college, and like so many people, just kind of went away. I wasn't antagonistic. It was just not a large part of my life, and a whole lot of hedonism involved with going off to college and everything else, and rabble-rousing and not acting right. And so along the way, so there's some circumstances in my life where I really started to question everything. One of the big things that has brought me back to my faith in Jesus Christ is my Jewish wife. Okay. And I'll tell you why. So I met my wife in college, time when I wasn't at all very connected to I always believed in God, but it wasn't a big part, so it wasn't influencing my life, and so we met, and we dated and whatnot, and then as we went on, started thinking about getting married, and that's when the questions started. Well, what is it that you believe, right? What is it that you believe? And so I went on this mental journey, and I am a science and math dude, right? I love logic. I love when things are put in order. Numbers sing to me, right? They are just, it's order. And maybe it's from...
I love that. Order and chaos, though. I love both. I love both because I learn in chaos and,
Sure.
Anyway, sorry, go
well,
ahead.
And I think we all have a little bit of that.
You got to have both.
Yeah.
You got to have both.
Or you're out of order, like an OCD person like myself.
Yeah. And that's what that represents is the red part would be order, the black part would be chaos.
Right.
You only need a tiny bit of chaos in your life to be balanced.
Yeah.
But you need a whole lot of order.
Yeah.
See, I'm the complete opposite.
Right.
I need a tremendous amount of chaos and a tiny bit of order. Isn't that why we're such good partners?
Yeah.
Isn't that why we're such a good team?
Because we balance each other out.
We balance each other out.
Absolutely.
So I apologize for that.
No worries.
It was important to jump in there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so that started a journey of really digging deep, right? Going back to my roots in Christianity. What do I believe? What don't I believe? And being a science and math geek and loving logic. So I was building a lot of head knowledge about it, which a lot of logic and head knowledge will drive you to the fact that there is a God. There's an amazing book out there. It's called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
I love that.
And it is a fascinating book.
You said the word faith.
Yes.
I'm going to write that down.
Because it takes faith to be an atheist. And the book walks you through it, and we could go on forever.
I would argue that it also takes faith to be a Christian.
It does.
Okay, cool.
But we agree on that. But
okay.
But the book's premise is that there's so much evidence built up into the fact that not only is there a God, but evidence based on the Christian theology of God and Jesus, that it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to be a Christian.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So that's how but it is bare bones, goes down to philosophical logic.
I need to read that book.
Yeah.
What was it?
It's called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. It's by Frank Turek and sorry, I forget the other author. There's two authors in it. And I listen to a lot of books now as opposed to
audiobooks is audio. Mm-hmm. Especially books like this. Well, actually, a lot of times these books I like to read because I can stop and research and but I do love audiobooks.
But not associated. Yeah, no worries. But not associated with that book. But another resource is the what is it? The Creation Research Institute, CRI, Creation Research Institute. It is a group of scientists, biologists, physicists, all of these scientists that have a true faith in God, but they also they approach apologetics, or the ability to support the basis of your faith with science. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, like evolution would say that we all came from an amoeba, right? The one cell organism, and then we have evolution. It split off into like horses and people and this and that. There is not one recorded instance, and scientists have been looking for it, of a cell increasing in information. So in order for that to occur, the horse's mane and your ears and a pig's snout, all of that.
This book. You gave me a video on this.
Yeah, all of the I gave you, that wasn't the book, but yes, I showed you the videos he's a physicist, and he went through that.
Yeah, it was a good video.
And he talks about that, though, that
that's
if that were
podcast.
the case,
that's a whole nother podcast.
It is a whole nother podcast. That all that information would have had to have been in there, because there's never been an instance of. Now, there's mutation in cells and genes, but mutations, mutations are either an alteration of information or a reduction in information, but never an increase in information.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yes.
I like that. It's very important.
Yes. Now, there is such a thing as survival of the fittest, as that video that I showed you before, but that's different than evolution.
Well, look, I'm really worried. I'm really worried about going down this path, because we were on this other one, and I do love that topic. But I think we got to start there.
Yeah, that'll be number 2.
Yeah. So okay, so that was important, and okay, so I wanted to say something.
Go for it.
And it's how I think the interpretations of the Bible.
Yeah.
When I read or hear about streets of gold, mansions, and all these interpretations, and when it wasn't very long ago, I sat down and said, I'm going to read the Bible. Mm-hmm. I just want to start with Genesis.
Sure.
And I couldn't do it. I read it. I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever read in my life. None of this makes sense. Uh-huh. This is what changed. When I say I met God, right? That sounds so silly to say. Because what is God? Well, I would describe it in something like this. Like, I'm going down this hallway and I'm looking in these doors, right? And each door is just black. And then I get to this one door and it was just total accident. It's like, oh my God, and I just slammed it.
Yeah.
It's like, that was God.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to look again.
Yeah.
Like, my brain is too puny to even start or begin to process what I would try to describe God as. And I try to describe it as knowledge. Mm-hmm. Him as knowledge, information, infinite knowledge. And it almost felt like we are here to discover that knowledge. It's all in us. It's all downloaded and programmed from Adam and Eve, the first two, whatever. And we are here to expose everything, because we don't have creative thoughts. We find things. We discover them. That's art. That's words. That's everything. So anyways, that was my interpretation of what it was to meet God. And I started thinking about the Bible. I was like, oh, I think that's what happened to man. These are man's interpretations of what God exposed them to. Whether they got there with psychedelics or whatever it was, I have no idea if the burning bush was DMT or all these things, or if God gave them enlightenment, or they used first principles.
Sure.
Right? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But they tried to come back and say, okay, it's like streets of gold. Like, I feel like they were trying to describe with words, a limited vocabulary, what heaven would be like.
Right.
Right? What hell would be like.
Yeah.
If you could compare, the worst thing on the earth would be burning for an eternity, and they would say it'd be like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I struggle.
Yeah.
And I say, well, these are man-made interpretations with limited vocabulary, with limited experience and knowledge. And so that's kind of why I started rediscovering the Bible and saying, oh, you know what? I don't even know how to describe what I've seen. Maybe they didn't either. Maybe this is the words that they have available at the time. So that's where I go back and say, okay, the Bible's maybe a little more legit than we had first, or than I had first give it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why not only is it the most read book right, in the
Since
history of the
beginning,
world,
yeah.
but it's had the most influence around the world.
And the most argued over,
Sure.
misinterpreted, interpreted.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating because you was talking today. I overheard you was saying, well, I've got to do my Bible study or whatever. And I thought, this is all you do and you still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
And
No.
it gave me appreciation for the book.
Yeah.
It's infinite wisdom.
I am.
It's fascinating that this book, look, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be anything to appreciate this book.
That's true.
It's fascinating.
The knowledge, like you said, the knowledge that's built into it is fascinating. And the more you read, the more you get out of it.
It has to be God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to be God.
Yes.
To have all this information. Now I don't know if it's I don't know if my version is the same version of what you think of as God.
Right.
Right?
I think
this conscious, the Holy Spirit, and that's the Holy Spirit talking to you. I said, well, that's just my ego or my conscious, or maybe it is. I don't know.
Right.
I do not care because I've come to a point that I'm going to stop asking.
Yeah.
Because I know my brain does not have the bandwidth to process these questions. I'm better left trying to process everyday simple things, and I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't even begin to understand.
You just brought me back to my faith walk, though. And
Okay, that's next on my question.
That is because I was digging in and really, again, down this logic route and understanding, I am sure that there is a God out there. Okay, so is it the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? And through learning all this stuff, yes, I'm sure that, okay, was Jesus real and was he the Son of God and all this stuff? And
I think
and I can get
pretty much confirm that.
Right.
You don't have to be religious to accept.
Right, that Jesus.
You might as
exactly.
well not believe Alexander the Great existed.
Right.
Right? I mean,
so all of that stuff is head knowledge, though. So everything that you were talking about was dealing with the head and going down the logic route, right? I know that God exists.
Hold on. You just changed everything.
Yes.
I've got that. I didn't write it down, but I was going to get there.
I know that God exists because I have a personal relationship with him now. And that came about not through the head, but through the heart. So, a comment that I'll steal from somebody is that the longest 18 inches in the world is from here to here, right? And connecting the two is often very difficult. And I had a lot of head knowledge about God. And you know what that creates in people? Judgmentalness, right? Being judgmental. I know what's best for you, too. I wish you would read this because you'd be a better person if you would read this, right? But not having a heart change in that respect as well.
That's unfair because no one could have followed your path. And no, I didn't mean that was unfair. I'm saying when people do that, you should read this because it's what's best for you. It's just dumb luck and by accident that you met your wife, which was Jewish, and some word was said that made you say, and you went down that. It's just dumb luck that we're here having this conversation.
I agree.
So it's...
But I guess what I'm trying to say is without that relationship, you can really be judgmental towards other people
That's
around
why you're confident. Okay, that's what makes you different. You're different because you know.
Right.
Everyone else that I've met believes.
Have
you heard me say that before?
Yes.
Maybe that's okay. So you've heard me say that
But
before.
these folks haven't.
Well, they probably have.
Okay.
Maybe, but they probably didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
I knew. And did I tell you about Carl Jung?
Yeah.
I told you about that story when he was asked. And most people thought he was an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, no, I know. and but he was so confident that he didn't even go on to explain.
Right.
And I thought, I knew. I was able to say, I know what he's talking about. Right? But that's where it goes back to faith and belief and all these other things.
Yeah.
And I was shocked that you even just said, I know.
Yeah.
Because I don't hear that very often. Most people don't say, I know. They talk about faith.
Yeah.
They talk about belief.
Yeah.
And I say that's beautiful because I believe in a lot of things and I have faith that the sun will rise tomorrow.
I have had things in my life that I have done or that have happened that have put me to the depths of, similar to what you were talking about, right? That where you would just describe it as beta point of view. I would call it like guilt and shame and regret and resentment and just the bottom of the barrel, right? And it's in that depth is where giving it over to God, right? It doesn't mean I give all my responsibility to God around me, right? Oh, I got to feed my kids. No, I'll just give that responsibility to God, right? It is, my life has become unmanageable, and I know that I can't white knuckle my way out of this. I know that I need help. I need help. God, don't help me through this. Can you please save me out of this, out of this thing that I've made my life into? And he met me there. And that's where I found a personal relationship with God, where, in your quiet moments, you can actually hear a prompting, and know that it's him whispering to you. And I'm not the best at that, and I try to listen for his voice, and I don't always try to listen to his voice, right? I have a big knack of white knuckling stuff, right? Because I grew up where you get what you work for, and by golly, if it doesn't work, you're going to work harder, and you're going to, make it work. And so, but that's good in a work standpoint. It really sucks in like relationships, and it really sucks when there are things that are out of your control, right, to begin with. And so trying to white knuckle your way through situations and through just dark moments in your life. And that's really where I met my personal relationship with God. And so that's why I know that he exists. Mm-hmm. I hear him sometimes, and I want to hear him more.
So I don't have that at all. I would say that I do not have a personal relationship with what you, maybe I do, and I just don't realize it. I think I have a really good personal relationship with me. Mm-hmm. And when I say me, maybe that is God. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I communicate with myself a lot. I'm very introspective. I'm always questioning everything. Yeah. And I'm doing that from within, right? And they always say happiness comes from within. And I believe all those things because I think I understand them. But I don't feel like I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. And it may just be an interpretation thing because this is very complicated.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to beta, though. When you mentioned beta, I want to clarify on that. I don't necessarily think always beta's bad because there's times that I take a beta role. When it comes to you, you're project manager. You're the best project manager I've ever met. Yeah.
That's because I'm the only one that you've ever met.
No, you're not. You were hand selected because I knew that I was the project. Yeah. Therefore, I will take a beta role when it comes to, and I'll ask your opinion.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Sure. And that's kind of what I mean by that beta thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily negative. And every boy that's ever existed and every girl that's ever existed, male, female, old, young, we are all beta.
Yeah.
And you grow, you experience, and then whatever it is, maybe it's math. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I kind of look at it. And people see it as a negative or a positive. It's not necessarily. It's a lack of understanding is what puts you in that beta mindset. So anyways, I just wanted to clarify that a little bit.
Is it confidence then?
Yeah. So cocky, I always describe as beta. A lot of times come across as cocky.
Yeah.
And alpha comes across as confidence. And I see as confidence as I would never argue or defend. I just would feel bad and move on with my life. Sure. I'd say, well, this is a good suggestion. Mm-hmm. And if they say, well, good luck. Yeah. I would never sit there and defend myself, which would be confident for me. That'd be a very alpha way of thinking. So that was kind of clear and fine-tuned things. But the whole night I was thinking, I don't think I have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. I think I have a relationship with me. And maybe within me is God. Maybe that's what that is. I have no idea. Yeah. I am open to anything. Yeah. I am that alpha.
Yeah.
That I am confident enough that I know nothing. Mm-hmm. And I am open-minded that if I got whatever hit me, I can tell you this. I'm the happiest person I know.
Yeah.
I have the happiest kids I know.
Yeah.
Now I worry. Are you sure you're okay? I'm always like, you're not being productive. When I see my kids not being productive, I start to worry.
Yeah.
And I start to tune in and I say, you're not challenging yourself. You're taking the easy way. Boy, you should have seen what I did the other night. Brennan, I met some people at a restaurant. They were the GMs, whatever. And we got to talking, and we kind of hit it off. And they were like, invite your son over. We'd love to hire him. So I tell my son, I said, hey, they'd love to hire you. And the next day I got a text. It was like, please send him over. They want to meet him. Okay, so he went. I said, are you going to take the job? I said, make sure you interview them, by the way. So he did. And he goes back, yeah, I'm taking the job. I'm like, awesome. Next day I said, because I was playing cards with his boss, because I'm friends with his other boss.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to his boss because I wanted to make sure Brennan kind of broke the news on his own. This was 2 nights ago. I said, did you tell your boss? He said, no, I didn't tell him, but I told a supervisor. Okay, but you turned in your notice. Yes. Okay. Well, last night I'm hanging out, and I was like, hey, man, I was talking to Brennan's boss. I said, I'm sorry I didn't bring it up there. Then I wanted to make sure Brennan had a chance to let you guys know. But he, it's been fun him working here. He said, what? What do you mean?
Oh, no.
I was like, he's turned in his notice. No, he didn't.
Oh, no.
OMG.
Right.
I'm calling, and I'm freaking out. I'm talking to him. I'm saying, there's only a couple things in life that I'm really going to be hard on my kids about, and that is be honest.
Yeah.
I don't care how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I hear Jordan Peterson say, if you can't be honest, don't lie. At least don't lie. Right? Because there's times that you got to fudge a little bit.
Yeah.
And also own up to your responsibilities.
Yeah.
Head them off straight on. And man, I was freaking out. I was so disappointed in my son. Mm-hmm. And now part of me was like, oh, this is a good thing. Mm-hmm. This is an indication of what we expect out of each other. Anyways, long story short, I'm sure he didn't handle it the proper way. He did let someone know.
Sure.
But boy, that poor kid, I know he was in panic mode. And after it was all said and done, I called him back. I said, okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
Apparently you did do something, but I'm not convinced you're 100% honest here. But I'm just wanting you to take this into account to understand this is how seriously I take this. Own up to your responsibilities. Never, ever, ever take advantage of other people. So, and in the end, it was a really good learning experience.
Yeah.
And maybe I overreacted. I'm not sure. But boy, these things matter so much, man. This is your reputation. This is your integrity. There are very few things you can change in life, including your reputation, good or bad. It's very difficult to really sway. People say, oh, no, you can lose it quickly. No. As long as you have a really good reputation and you fail, people will say, well, you know what? Maybe he did, but that's not in his nature. That's not the Nathan I know.
Right.
That's not the Jeremy I know. He generally always. So I say a good reputation or a bad reputation is pretty difficult to change.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry that was long and drawn out.
No, that's all right.
But I think it's just the way I was saying it to say this is how I live my life.
Sure.
It's and I don't know. I don't know what that meant. I don't even know why I gave that example. Well, something that said and made me think about it, but
it was a prompting.
I guess so, but it was an example of how I don't have it figured out.
Sure,
I'm lost. I'm just trying real hard.
Yeah, and that's okay because everybody.
It's important. I think.
Everybody is right. I am. And just because I know that there's a God and all this stuff, that doesn't mean I have my life all figured out. That doesn't mean that I don't have relationship struggles or, I have rough days at work life is a struggle. It's going to be a struggle, and it's how we approach those struggles that is important in our daily lives. So I think the reason why I talk about it is because too many people think I have it figured out. So many younger people, older people of all walks of life are like, gosh, man, you've got it. Yeah.
You've got the perfect wife, the perfect life, the perfect kids. And I would agree. Mm-hmm. But trust me, I struggle just like you.
Yeah.
I have the same fears as you, and this is how I failed. Yeah. This is where I messed up. Yeah. So I don't ever want to give someone the illusion that I have it figured out. Mm-hmm. No, I don't even want to give you an illusion. I want you to understand that I am working very, very, it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's easy way, hard way. Take the hard way. Yeah. Every time. Yeah. Just take the hard
narrow
way.
Road.
Yeah. And I'm lazy. I am super lazy, but I still want to take the right way.
I understand
the honorable way. So anyways, I just don't ever want people to think that, I didn't get lucky like that. No, it ain't luck, man. No. It's asking why and really trying to do the best. Don't lie. If you can't tell the truth, don't lie.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Just Just avoid it.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
And I haven't done that always perfect either. You know, I mean,
all do.
we've all been down that road in different levels, etc. But I mean, same thing, right? I don't want people to think that I know that I'm not perfect. That's why I'm so grateful for what's been done for me, right? That's why faith is such a big part of it. But it's
a good question.
You know, I don't want to ever, but don't ever lose your joy because of it either, right? So
that's what I'm saying. I'm so happy.
Right. So having true joy in your life isn't saying to the world, "Hey, I've got it all figured out."
But people think that.
Yeah.
People think you have money, you have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
No. Lies.
Right.
Don't listen to lies.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I agree. You had a question. I'm sorry.
Well, no. You had said faith, and I apologize because you said faith again. What do you think about faith? What do you think about faith and belief? And I know we kind of just covered it when we said I know.
Yeah.
And you use faith a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sold on faith. I think it's important. I think it's necessary. I don't think sometimes you have to have a choice. Or I think sometimes you don't have a choice and I think faith is accepting something you don't understand, can't see. Yeah. It's just, is that what it is to you?
Yeah. It's like gravity, right?
Yeah.
I have faith that I'm not going to walk outside and start walking up towards the moon because I know each and every day that this thing that I can't see or feel, well, I can feel, gravity is going to keep me down there.
And do you think I'm right when I think I don't know if I've said it to you, but it does require faith to believe in something?
I'm giving that honest pause.
That's fine.
Does it require faith to believe in something? No, I don't. Well, it depends on semantics, but I'm going to explain my answer. And then
what does it mean to believe then?
So let me start with faith. So faith is built in the belief in something untangible, I think, personally.
Built into belief?
Yeah, so the belief is built into faith. It's the belief in something that's untangible.
I think that's probably one.
Yeah.
Untangible.
I can't.
Untangible, like I can't touch it. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and that's kind of off the cuff.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think because we have a limited vocabulary, we use one word for multiple things.
Yeah.
And when I think about faith and belief, like most people believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
Most all.
Yeah.
Believe in God. And I said, well, how do they do that? And I thought, oh, they have faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, oh, you have to have faith. Mm-hmm. Because I was really hard on faith. I didn't like the concept of faith. Mm-hmm. It was such a big part of religion. Sure. And people spoke about their faith. It felt like they preached about their faith. And I thought, hold on, I'm not so big on this whole faith thing.
Sure.
I mean, you're just telling me that faith is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is if you want to believe in something. It requires, in my mind, it required faith to ever believe in anything.
Okay.
But when you got to a point of knowing,
and
it hit me, I thought, once you know, you can never believe in it again.
Right.
It doesn't require faith. I know. It's tangible. I've seen it. I felt it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where faith, belief, and knowing was this revelation for me. It was like, oh, no, I understand now why faith was so important to people of religion.
Yeah.
Because they had to have it to ever believe in God or the devil or hell. And that's kind of where I was at. And on one way, me not being a religious person at all, it was like, I'm not saying I felt bad. Mm-hmm. I just started to understand why people depended on faith.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
It does. Like I have faith in knowing that. So there's a scripture. It's Romans 8:28 that God will make all things right for those who love and serve the Lord. All things work together for the good of those who love and serve the Lord. I think that's 8:28. I could have the scripture wrong. Doesn't matter. So what that means to me is that in the struggle, I know that God has a purpose on the other side of this. Like he's working all things together for good. Even the bad stuff here there's going to be something on the other side of that storm that's good or better. Go ahead.
Could that also mean, because I don't want to get away from it, could that also mean to serve the Lord? Mm-hmm. It means more than just praying to God. It means serving your neighbors. giving more than you take, being a productive member of society, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what it means to serve God?
There's
to live up to these standards.
There is it's about love.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's about love, right? So, and I wouldn't even call it standards, but there's a love aspect to it. So Jesus says when he's asked, what is because the Pharisees are trying to trip him up, right? They're always trying to get him to say something stupid that get him in trouble. And they say, well, what's the most important commandment? He said all the commandments could be summed up in these two. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And those... If
you did that, the world would be a great place.
And he says, all the law and the prophets are built into those two things. And isn't that so true, right? So I think it's built in love, right? So if I love you enough, I'm not going to bash you over the head with my faith. I'm going to plant a seed. Hopefully you think about it, and God's going to work with you the way let God do what he wants to do. If I love my neighbor enough, I'm going to check in on them, see how they're doing, etc. You know what I'm trying to say. If I love the Lord, then I'm going to have a relationship with him. I'm going to talk to him. Prayer doesn't just have to be asking about stuff. It could be just talking. It could be saying thank you.
I've thought about the concept of love a lot, to the point that I got to the point, and I hope this doesn't. Well, it may come off as it's not intended to be cynical, but I was trying to figure out the concept of love. What is love? And I think it came from the Steinberg triangle when I finally understood what his theory of love was, which was a consummate, which was passion, intimacy, dedication, or I should say commitment. And I really broke that down, and I thought, I think we love. And I got on this concept of gratitude. What is gratitude? And I think I realized, for me personally, the way I would describe gratitude is the concept of feeling loved. Okay? To love something or someone is very scary and can be devastating. To love, it's not a good place to be without receiving love. So if you love someone and they don't love you back, that's called infatuation, and that will kill you if you don't find a way through it. So love is a very dangerous thing, to love someone. And so I say this all the time, and I say it not jokingly, I say it just in general. We love to love. What I'm saying is the reason why we love is in the hopes that we receive love. I think we do it for selfish reasons. I do. I think that we as a species, we show love in the hopes that we receive it.
Okay.
Because you always give it first. You never receive, and if you did receive it first, it's because they wanted it back. Right? It's this thing. It's beautiful.
Sure.
I'm not mad at it. I think it's the most brilliant thing that humans do, but it's something that I dwelled on a lot, and I realized, I thought, it's the main reason why we show affection is in the hopes that we receive it. Because what we do is we stop showing it when we don't get it back. We say, well, we're wasting our time here. Why are we wasting our time?
I'm sure.
Because we didn't get it back. They didn't appreciate it, so we find another individual or thing to invest in. And I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But I just wish people would maybe consider that just loving someone doesn't mean you're going to be loved back.
Yeah.
You need to have you need to have a lot of self-love. You need to really have and that's what got me on this whole concept of self-respect versus showing respect. We have a really good tendency of showing respect because that's a form of showing love.
Yeah.
But if you don't respect me back and I just eat it, well, that's not good for me. So I have a responsibility to love myself first. But I heard Matthew McConaughey say this one time. He said, if you want to be selfless, you got to be selfish. And what he meant was, in some ways, you got to do what's best for you because that's why you can give.
Yeah.
If you're prosperous, then you can give back.
When you just said that, I thought of the book, you probably heard of it, Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's about setting healthy boundaries, but it's the basis is not going towards people pleasing, on the one hand, setting healthy boundaries to have enough self-respect for yourself, because that also is destructive to relationships, to where that can build up resentment, right? Like, I'm going to keep saying yes, and I'm going to keep giving you everything you want, and I'm not setting a healthy boundary for myself, and all the while I'm building up this anxiety inside, like, why are you taking advantage of me? All the while not realizing, because I'm letting you take advantage of me, right? And I've been there. And so that book is an excellent kind of purview into setting healthy boundaries for yourself, understanding, you be you and I'll be me, and people they define how they're going to be treated by others in many respects. So because they'll let people either take advantage of them or that sort of thing.
When we're young, we typically allow individuals to take more advantage of us. And as we grow and become more confident and more alpha-minded in those scenarios, we start, if we're doing it right, we start having a little more self-respect. Yeah. And we say, no. Yeah. You can't treat me that way. Yeah. And that's a confident person. Yeah. I have this theory, it's the only thing wrong with the world today. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to describe. Most people would argue with me and say, no, you're wrong. They just shut me down. And that's fine. I'm not upset because this is hard for me to wrap my head around. Mm-hmm. But everybody's so focused on showing love. All we got to do is love others. I have a theory that if we truly loved ourselves first, the world would be the greatest place on the planet. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying take from others. Yeah. I'm saying don't allow others to take advantage. Yeah. It's okay to show love, but if you don't receive it, have enough self-confidence, have enough self-respect to say, okay, bad investment. Yeah. People will hear me say these things all the time. I use them in business. I use them in my children, my wife, my friendships. I say, okay, well, not a good match, not a good fit. Let's invest here. Yeah. Where can we where can we give benefit in the world? And if they appreciate it, then we get this gratitude. We get this reciprocating love, and it's healthy, and we can grow, and it's this oscillating thing. So I just believe if we loved ourselves a little more, and I would say that's called personal respect, self-respect, the world would have no problems. Yeah. And I think the reason why we don't have it is because we're not taught it. Mm-hmm. I see every parent teaching children the opposite of that. Every parent tends to teach children to show respect first versus demand respect. Right. So in an instance, like parents come home, they're frustrated, they've been working too hard, they're trying to make a living, and the kid wants a little attention, and the parent's very dismissive, right? Very disrespectful, and just chill, right? That's very disrespectful. Yeah. The child did not deserve that. So the parent disrespected the child. But if the child was taught to say, hey, Mom, I was just asking a question. Yeah. I did not deserve that. It's true. If they were taught to behave that way, to respond, not react, never react, but to respond to someone that's going through something in a responsible way, the parent would say, you know what, Jimmy, I am so sorry. I apologize. Right? But we don't teach our children to do that. Right. We teach them to don't speak unless spoken to. We teach them this very harsh, very rigid. Anyways, it's a concept that I can't get into tonight, but it was a theory that I had, and I'm telling you, man, I think I've got something, because I realize that's when things start to improve, is when individuals start to appreciate themselves and start saying, you know what, I deserve this. Yes, I agree with you. I'm not going to let you disrespect me anymore. I work hard. I've never been patronizing to you, and you're not going to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I have to fight you. And that's what's funny. Parents teach children to fight back. Right. Defend yourself. But we're not taught to respect ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's the missing link. Mm-hmm. I think if we could ever wrap our heads around this concept, and I don't fully understand it, but I'm practicing it. Mm-hmm. I tell my children, please, if I ever treat you in a way that you did not deserve, if you feel that you did not deserve it, I want you to say, Dad, correct me. Mm-hmm. Don't freak out and say, screw you, you're a piece of crap. Yeah. No, that's desperate. That's weak. That's reaction, not proactive. Well, and
a
it's also
response is
it's
proactive.
And a response is you can respond to anything. Reactions are responses with emotions attached, with an emotional connotation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anger, fear.
That's true,
And if
yeah.
you can breathe, compose yourself, have some self-respect, and say, listen, I didn't deserve that.
Right.
Don't, just because you're my father doesn't mean you can make bad choices in life. Right?
Yeah.
Trying to work for something that you're trying to compete with the neighbors, whatever it is you're doing, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
Don't treat me that way. Now, even though that's the concept that I'm trying to teach my children, no, they don't take advantage of it. But I'm hoping maybe the next generation will.
Yeah.
Maybe they practice that when their children are babies.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's a razor's edge between, I see parents doing it and they coddle their children and they let the children talk back. No, listen, guys, it's not that simple. Just because I'm not allowed to disrespect someone, that also means I'm not allowed to let them disrespect me.
Agreed.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
There's no disrespect allowed.
And that's so wise to know that the easy way is to make sure. It's easy to teach somebody, hey, you're not allowed to teach me to treat me that way.
Yeah.
It's difficult, I think, to train them the opposite, and you need to make sure that you have respect for yourself. Don't let people treat you that way, because those experiences, well, that learning will require experience. So how do you fake that in a training seminar, right? Like,
If you taught them as a child, when a child misbehaves, and so that's got me thinking about this whole. It got me thinking, and I started realizing what entitlement was.
Yeah.
When a child misbehaves, it's because it's a sense of entitlement. Well, what is that? Well, entitlement comes from expectations. What is that? Expectations come from being conditioned to believe you deserve something or a situation.
Yeah.
And I realized, it was my fault. My child is entitled because they expected something that I conditioned them for. Because I was too weak. I didn't have enough self-respect. Out of guilt, I gave in.
Sure.
Out of guilt.
Yes.
Because I didn't have enough self-respect. Because I was vulnerable, weak, beta. I was beta-minded in that moment. And because of societal pressures to compete in the world, I gave them something that they didn't earn. And I keep doing that. Well, I've conditioned that child to believe they deserve it.
Right.
Which creates expectations.
Yeah.
And when they don't get it, they behave badly. That is called entitlement.
Yeah.
And it was like this thing that I've discovered. I thought, oh, parents are the problem.
Yeah.
Parents are the problem.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't have this whole theory worked out. It's hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah, because the other side of that is it's not necessarily bad to get something you don't deserve. We call that gifts, right? And gift giving is one of the 5 love languages.
But we do it for selfish reasons. We give.
Yeah.
We give because we want to feel loved. Because it feels good when somebody lights up. They feel grateful.
Yeah. Not always.
But if you keep
can
giving
give,
and they're like, thanks, appreciate it, you stop giving.
Not always. I mean, you can give with a heartfelt intent to charity, but not see anybody on the other side.
Okay, I got to stop.
And that to me is like loving your neighbor as you love yourself, right? So if you believe in, and again, you have to, charity is best done locally because, but anyway.
Well, that's a good one too. I actually like that because I think about, well, why do I give to charity? To ease my conscience. For selfish reasons. I really do.
For tax purposes.
No, because I have too much. I feel guilt. I give because I avoid the sensation of guilt.
I don't think it has to be that way.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
That's where maybe it's just too shallow.
Yeah. And regardless, I mean, the end goal.
It does feel good though, right?
It does. Sure it does.
But then again, isn't that for selfish reasons? We do it because it feels good?
It depends on if that's the purpose or the product.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm actually okay with it even if it is.
Yeah. Because something
because
good
it
is
kind of
coming
makes
from
the
it.
world go round.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's this. I think we're wired genetically. Maybe it's God, nature, whatever, whoever, which side you're on.
Yeah.
We are wired to feel something good when we go to the gym, when we show affection, when we give. And so it's a way for the species to grow, to not evolve, but to transcend, to become better versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think it's a biological expression. I think it's a biological reaction.
Yeah.
To a psychological, right? And you know what I'm saying? I think I think of emotions as biology,
absolutely,
more than psychology. Almost.
So that can be the case. I think it depends again which one's the product and which one's the presupposition, if you will. But the idea is are your hormones driving love, or is your love driving your hormones? Right.
Okay. Well, I think about that too.
Yeah.
See, I think of. Hold on. I just want to see where it was at because I just want to make sure we didn't go crazy here.
Okay.
Didn't
Yeah.
end
I
up
understand
4 hours in.
Yeah.
Well, no. I was thinking of the audience at this point.
Oh yeah.
You and I are being a little selfish.
Yeah, I agree.
We may have to hit pause and say good luck, good night, see you next time.
Split it in half.
Yeah. But because you and I can keep doing this.
I know.
This is why we decided we should do a podcast, and I want to wrap that up. How about that? How about we wrap up with that?
Cool.
So something that I've been thinking about is the separation between psychology and biology.
Okay.
And that's what I think, what I would identify that you're describing.
Yeah.
Which was, say it again.
Yeah. What is biology driving love, or is love driving the hormones? Are hormones driving love, or is love driving your hormones?
Okay, this is awesome because I say, is it biology driving psychology, or is psychology driving biology?
Yeah.
Because I think of biology, hormones as hormones. I think of hormones as
like
you can think of
dopamine
pheromones.
and-
Pheromones would be androstenol, these pheromones that we sense supposedly.
Yeah.
But yes, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, adrenaline. There's 50. We have 50 biological hormones that we can take a pill for.
Yeah.
And it would open those.
Yeah.
Or I can do something productive.
Yeah.
Or I can do something sinister.
Right.
Right? I can take from someone. I can rob someone.
Right.
And then I get something called cortisol.
Yeah.
Or I can avoid my responsibilities and get the same hormone called cortisol.
Yeah.
Right? So these hormones are, in my mind, are biological. They're biological reactions to psychological circumstances.
Yeah.
Is the way I would see it. But which one comes first when it comes to love?
Yeah.
This is hard because I think, well, why do we love? Okay. I'll let you run through it and then I'll go my way.
Yeah. I think that is one of, not to get back on theology, but the emotions that we have. So when you feel fear, because that's the easy one when you feel fear, there are certain biological things that happen in you, right? Hormones,
adrenaline, all these different things, stress,
but
cortisol.
You don't feel fear because your adrenaline started rushing. Your fear caused that to happen. Your emotion let out.
Hold on. Which came first? Is that the chicken or the egg? I feel fear. Okay. I think I feel, right? The definition of actually feeling this anxiety is a response to a fear that I psychologically have.
Right. So you're talking about psychological, right? And what I would say is that's part of your being, that's part of your mind, right? The psychology of it all. So that,
which
to
would have
me,
been the unknown. My psychological side, my brain doesn't know what's on the other side. So
Right.
before I jump out of a plane,
right,
I don't know if I'm going to live.
right.
So which one come first in your opinion?
I believe feelings are. I think the feelings are what occur that then cause a response in your body in different situations.
Wow, that's backwards than I would imagine. This is interesting.
Yeah.
That you and I are on opposite sides of that. Which one comes first? This is really interesting.
Right. Now, and I think that part, and maybe it could be either way. I don't know. But the way I'm envisioning it is,
I don't care which one's right.
Right.
I'm just having fun with
exactly.
the conversation.
It's because if I can love somebody even though things are going wrong in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's called unconditional love, right?
Right, but that would be counter to biology driving the love, because if things are going
that's
wrong,
complicated too, because that's because love is complicated.
Right.
Because love doesn't mean desire. Desire is sexual attraction. It's something else.
That's why actually the Bible in the Greek splits up love into different types. There's agape love.
Like my son and I, we were talking. This is fun because we actually had this conversation. It was a fun conversation because if I was to tell Landon, I love you, buddy, he goes, love you more. Every single time. He's the most affectionate kid that I've ever met. Not necessarily sensitive affection. It's just almost out of habit. But he's just he's going to make darn certain he loves you. You know he loves you. Yeah. So it's funny because we play the game all the time. I was like, no, I love you bigger. I love you more. And we go back and forth. And I said, look, Landon, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I love you unconditionally. You cannot have that for me. Mm-hmm. And he said, I said, do you know what that means? And because he's homeschooled, and so everything's a science experiment or a psychological experiment. And I said, what do you think unconditional means? And we walked through it.
Yeah.
And I think I was able to prove to him that I loved him more than he loved me. Because I do not believe my son can love me unconditionally. Mm-hmm. I created him. He did not create me. I don't care how bad he screws up. I love him no matter what. I may be disappointed, but I think that a child could go through life and not truly love their parent. Like they despise. Now, maybe they want to love. That's different than loving, but I don't understand. I think that's what unconditional love means. And I said, I can't even love your mother unconditionally.
Right.
I love you differently than you love me or I love your mother. It's totally different. Yeah. And I can't change that. It's not my choice. I created you.
I've often said that there's nothing that my daughters could ever do, including go out, and God forbid they go out and kill somebody later in life, right?
Just come tell me, I'll help you bury the body.
That would never take my love away from them. Yeah. Now, there would be consequences, but that would never take my love away from them, right? You just described the love between God and humanity.
That's it. Yeah, that's a really good way to do it. And that's it. That's it. I just did. Yep. I don't think that I've ever made that connection. Mm-hmm. He has unconditional love.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can even wrap my head around.
We're not going to go down
but
that, but I wanted to bring that up because
it was. That's a good way to round this out.
Yeah.
Man,
this was awesome. I hope we didn't get too philosophical.
I don't care if we did. I had fun.
I did too.
You had fun. And if you didn't like it, you're not here. So it's
right.
Okay.
Next time we'll talk more about COVID and
next
Ukraine.
Next time we're going to talk about what we want to talk about.
That's right.
So with that, episode 31.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank you.
Jeremy, thank you so much. And I've got a way that I end these things. I don't know if you've paid attention. So it usually ends up with something like, so listen, until next time, so long, bitch.